Fable just came out. You say hi and it's $9 to say hi, $200 a day. I know people that are going like 10 times harder than that.
This is Wes Bos, icon in the front-end community, and with everyone coding through their agents nowadays, we discuss how you can stand out today.
The code doesn't speak for your ability anymore. You need another way to show that you actually know what you're doing.
How have you seen education change?
What does software engineering look when the money runs out?
I heard a similar
Yeah.
I think, take last year
Yeah.
about generative UI, and it's only going to be chat or
Yeah.
one chat interface. What has actually changed throughout the year?
The models have gotten significantly better for understanding your intent.
Yeah.
The models have gotten way better in terms of like taking in context for like that's the one thing is like, should you have a dashboard that you decide on, or should that dashboard be populated with content and the design of that dashboard be generated based on context that it knows about you? You know, I often talk about like smart home. My smart home knows everything about me. Like when my cameras have gone off, when my lights are turned on and off, and like what should be the interface for my smart home? Should it be I should say a lot of it should just be automatic. There should be no interface, or some of it should be voice. But then like other parts is like I want like an app or like a dashboard or like an iPad or something on my wall. But like I don't want to have to spend like forever designing the perfect dashboard for my like home assistant. I want it to just shift and like I want it to make a dashboard for me based on what it knows. It has all of the context. You know, AI is fantastic at deciding what to do given the context. So the next step in that is just like generating the UI or generating the dashboard for me.
Mm-hmm. And it will do that based on the context, or it will do that based on your interaction with it?
That's what I'm like trying to figure out is like, is it good enough to like build your own UI?
Yeah.
Or like the other thing is that people say like, you don't need to build a website anymore. The user will just decide what it wants to see. And like the question is like, is the user smart enough to make a better dashboard than the people who know the product and design it? Or is the LLM better at building this product than you are? And in some cases, yeah, it's great. In other cases, no. Like you see some of these shitty websites that get cranked out, and it's just not a good experience. Where like you still need user interface designers to understand how people use a product.
Yeah. I don't think users, I think to a certain degree, they know what they want.
Yeah.
But then the people that are specialized and research and actually go in deep, they know way better.
Yeah.
Is my feeling.
And I think that's why this like, the like middle ground of like generative UI, meaning that like you can give it a whole bunch of components, but you should still be able to like tweak it a little bit to what you want. Because you see a lot of people just like vibe coding their own versions of an app because they've been frustrated with this tool they use every day for so long. Now they finally made something that they want. And I think that's great that people can just make their own version of something that makes them happy and does exactly what they want and not what their 20,000 customers need.
Yeah, everyone can become a builder now. So
Yeah.
if I have a specific problem, I build a product for me
Yeah.
and only for me, and then I solve my use case, and otherwise
That's
I throw
all
it
you
out.
need. Yeah.
That's it. But specifically these kind of generative UI components, I've seen them in theory, right?
Yeah.
You pre-configure some web components, and then based on context, it gets filled, and then it just magically appears.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any products actually use them effectively.
Yeah. I think that whole like generated design or like good design from an LLM has not been cracked yet.
No.
Like we cracked it certainly with code, but the like a good UI from it. Like even like one thing we're trying to do with our podcast is like programmatic overlays.
Okay.
You know, like lower thirds or like dots and whatnot. And we're getting there, being able to like say like here's a transcript, make a whole bunch of like overlays, but they still feel a bit cheesy and they don't feel like very good. So I don't think we're there quite yet.
Yeah. I want to zoom into your personal kind of way of working, because I feel like people love agents nowadays.
Yeah.
And people work in kind of an augmented way, agent augmented. Some people go fully autonomous and they have loop engineering is a newer term I heard.
Yeah.
Where they don't even prompt, they engineer the loop and that then prompts the model.
Yeah.
What is effective for your way of working?
That's a good question. I definitely understand the looping thing, because your website is constantly changing, right? Like there's errors that could pop up in your Sentry. There's user complaints that could come in. There's updates. There's logs. All of like you have all of these pieces. Like again, we're talking about context, right? You have all of these different pieces of context. And if your website is just like constantly like self-healing itself or self-improving it, I think that's great. It's just that right now it's just way too expensive to actually do that. And the people that are actually doing that are either like blowing many thousands of dollars, which is great because they're figuring this stuff out for us, or they're using their $200 a month plan and like running out of tokens. So I think eventually that will be a really good move. And even like I was building something the other day, and it was in Cursor, and I told it to do X, Y, and Z, and it like keeps like ducking out and doing kind of a half-assed job at it, even though I'm using like the latest models. And I think it's to do that. They don't want to like build too much, or they don't want to run for too long because it gets really expensive, right? But I wanted it to go longer. So like in that case, I coded up a loop where it says like, every time you're done, go back to the source. I was trying to like copy an API. I had like an API set of docs, and I was trying to build a user interface for it. And I was like, every time you're done, go back to the API, go back to the example that I'm trying to copy, and check absolutely every single thing and see if you've covered them all. And it looped like 7 or 8 times. And every single time it's like, oh, here's a new use case. Here's a new thing that I want, right? And it just like, it's too much to do in like one big swoop. And that like iterative loop is much better in that case. So I definitely see those loops. But most of my cases is just like spent collecting the iterations, collecting all the information that needs to happen, passing that in, letting that prompt run for however long. And then other ones where like you have a GitHub issue coming in, you can just set it on that, something like that.
Yeah. This trend of engineering our own engineering workflows for me is really fascinating.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work that can go into there, but I don't know if I have then a really good loop, what artifacts I can take with me to another project, or if it's very custom.
I think like anything that is good will just make its way back into the harnesses as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of like smart people are like figuring it out as to what it is, and then in a month it'll be part of the harness in Cloud Code or whatever, and then you can just use that. So I don't think that will be in a space where people have to architect huge things themselves, which
just makes sense that it goes back into the harness.
That's the kind of like the fun, good, and depressing part of it, because it's fun to like build these, like architect these huge systems, but then in a month it's just a prompt.
Yeah. What is your favorite harness right now?
Oh man, I go in between all of them just for the sake of being able to do it.
Yeah.
But like
Also
my like daily, sorry?
Also open source?
Yeah. I use like open code and Pi. I've dipped into. I ran OpenClaw when everyone was hyped up about that. But like my daily like software dev is probably 50-50 Cursor, Cloud Code.
Yeah.
I've been dipping into like Grok build, which is XAI.
Yeah.
That one's looking really good. I'm really interested in like the cheaper ones right now, because not because I'm a cheap guy. A lot of these companies give me like unlimited tokens. They don't necessarily care, but I'm curious about like what does software engineering look when the money runs out, and like can you get good stuff done with these much cheaper? You know, the Cursor Composer is way cheaper, and it's really good, and like the Grok build one, that's way cheaper than a lot of these other ones. So you can get a lot done with these sort of cheaper models.
Yeah.
So I almost get more excited about the like less powerful, cheaper ones than the like, oh, Fable just came out, Mythos, and you say hi and it's $9 to say hi, you know?
Yeah. Now I've seen people completely like let the model do everything through their harness. So also interactions with Git, everything with regards to committing, pushing, rebasing if they need to.
Oh yeah, I love that.
And I'm like, as long as the models are sustainable, then you can do that. It's really cool because you can still parallelize your work.
I often wonder about that. I'm like, I often just type like good commit and push.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's literally the same amount of words to just open a new terminal and type commit push myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but it's nice. It's nice to work like that as well. That's why I do it.
You don't have to switch gears.
Yeah,
It's like one interface and that's it. Yeah. Do you see the cheaper models still being centrally hosted, or are you bullish on the local models running on the edge?
Yeah, the like open source developer in me wants to see the like local models work, but I don't see that actually happening anytime soon. My hope is in that like 4 years from now or whatever, you can spec out a rig for like 15 grand or whatever, and just have that in your house, and like similar to like these cameras. Like we're sitting around probably what, $30,000 worth of video equipment right now. Like it's not crazy to think that like a developer would need to spend $30,000 on equipment as well, that you can sit in your house, and like now you got like a juiced up machine and you can run this thing as fast as possible. It's what photographers, video editors have already done that. So I hope that will be the case for us as well. It's a matter of like, can we get these models running on sane things, and does the price of hardware eventually come down as well?
Yeah, but you are definitely bullish on this is staying, this is not going away, because in my little bubble, there's a small percentage of people that are saying the costs are just not sustainable, so this whole thing is going to pop, and we're going to go back to everything.
Man, I don't know what to do right now, because like I'm not going back to writing it the regular way. I don't think a lot of people are like, this is way too good. There's no chance we're just going to go back to not using it. But on the same hand, it's like, what if this costs $3,000 a month? You know, that's why I'm saying like, yeah, if you spend 20 grand on a computer, that's going to be cheaper than a lot of people are like, I would pay $1,000 a month for unlimited Claude or whatever. And like, it's going to cost more than that. Like I know how much these tokens cost, and I can easily spend $200 a day on these things. And like, I know people that are like going like 10 times harder than that. It's like, $1,000 a month is probably not enough. Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe like new chips will come out. Maybe more improvements. There's got to be like technology will find a way, but I don't know how quickly that will happen.
No, it's been really fun also building this way. And I'm talking to people that have gone into leadership positions that barely have time to build. Yeah. And they can build now again, basically. They can just orchestrate agents.
Yeah, you're seeing all the project managers and all the ex-coders coming back and making their own stacks. Yeah.
So I also am there, that I don't want this to go away. I'm also in environments where people are spending thousands per month. And then especially if you have a big organization with thousands of engineers. Yeah, that's going to be chunky.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. It's crazy. We're in a weird spot right now.
How have you seen education change? Because previously you used to be able to watch many tutorials, YouTube boot camps, and self-educate a lot. Now you have agents, which are very capable. Yeah. But then do they educate the people, or what is this new education path?
Education has certainly changed, because it is much easier and better to simply just ask an agent how to do something, or like to help you explain things and get into it. It's significantly better than having to watch like a 20-hour course or whatever. And I'm saying that as a guy who makes that type of stuff as well. So it certainly has shaken it up. But like in the same regards, maybe it's just like different types of skills that you now need to learn, you know, like systems designs, or just like you don't necessarily have to care about like what is the syntax of like an array reduce, but it's more like, how do I solve this problem? And like that's a lot of the learning I have been doing. It's more like high level stuff where you just kind of like hoover up a whole bunch of information. You listen to like conference talks of like, how do people solve these problems? And like that to me is the like important knowledge right now, is like, how do you tackle and figure out new solutions, right? Because there's all of the solutions in these LLMs right now are just solutions that have already been made. Yeah. And when there's new problems, they're not necessarily able to figure that out. No. They can help you figure it out, right? Certainly much faster, but I don't think they'll be able to solve that entirely.
No, I wonder if I switch teams and they are using a language that I haven't even used yet. Do I put in the effort to learn the language, or do I just let my agent handle and me focus on solving problems?
I think that's it. Like I made I have like these photography lights, and they're on like a Bluetooth protocol. The app sucks, it disconnects. I hate it so much. It's Amaran lights. So I just took a little $5 ESP32. I decompiled the desktop application, totally reverse engineered the mesh Bluetooth protocol, wrote like a little mesh node in C, and then plugged it into the light, and now I just can control the lights myself and my home assistant. Like, I don't know C, but I do know how Bluetooth works. Yeah. I do know how mesh networks. I know how they communicate with each other. I do know how keys get swapped between devices, all of that stuff. So I was able to, like, knowing that knowledge, figure that out, and then write C on a microcontroller. Like, I'm just a dumbass web developer,
It's a fascinating world.
Yeah.
I love that when things get repetitive or things are unknown, you can still, if you're quite capable, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
It just takes kind of time and effort.
If all these, like, managers are vibe code in JavaScript now, I'm certainly going to go make a microcontroller.
And the funniest thing that I've automated recently was just, I was video editing, and then I was cutting clips and removing silences, and then I just wrote a plugin that did it.
Yeah.
And I have no clue how the whole plugin orchestration works, but I figured it out.
Our video editor, Randy.
Yeah.
He's no coding experience at all. And the guy has built, like, an entire desktop app, MCP, it's hooked into DaVinci Resolve, it does transcript. Like, has a whole production desktop app for editing the podcast, and it's amazing.
And he did it himself?
Yeah, he just did it himself. He did it in Python for some reason, but yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, well.
That's really funny. Yeah. Let's talk about conferences, because I love that in-person conferences are still a thing. I think they're bigger and bigger every year, especially since COVID was a huge dip.
Yeah.
But what do you love about conferences?
Man, I love conferences for the people. Like, it's the community, talking to people, the conversations, the access to, like, there's, like, some of the smartest people in our industry are just, like, sitting in a room over there eating cookies. So to me, like, the talks have always been interesting, but the main thing for me is just being able to connect and meet with people. Because, like, when COVID hit, I did a couple of those online conferences, but they suck. You know, there's no feedback.
Very different.
You don't get to meet people. There's no, like, you don't get to go on a boat and drink beer with a bunch of friends. And, like, that's where so many of the, like, industry connections and friendships are made. So that's why I love these in-person conferences.
Yeah. Is it more the networking part, or is it also the kind of content part and the learnings? How do you see that?
It's mostly the networking. Yeah. Or, like, just the, like, we always call it, like, the hallway track, where it's like, it's just the conversations you have with people in the hallway about what they're working on. Because it's not necessarily just the speakers as well. Like, often you'll meet people who are attending, and you're like, what do you work on? And, like, I met a guy a couple of years ago that works on elevators. What? I had, like, a half an hour talk about, like, what do you do with elevators? How do elevators work? That's fascinating to me, about, like, how people are out there writing software for elevators, obviously, but, like, I've never met one. So, like, you get to meet the neatest people.
That's really cool. I like the part where the content is usually really solid and you have networking opportunities, but now there's also the unconference where you come in, you make your own agenda, and specifically nowadays when things are accelerating, there's just a lot to talk about.
Totally.
So is it about hiring? Is it about ways of working? Is it about junior engineers leveling up? Whatever you want, you make your own agenda and you talk about that.
Totally, yeah.
I love those opportunities.
Yeah, me too.
As well.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Lastly, I want to talk about personal branding.
Yeah.
Because I feel like now that people can build, your portfolio just increases. Now that people can generate content, all the resumes I've heard kind of look similar.
Yeah.
So how do you stand out? For me, the answer could be personal branding. You've been in this space and working on personal branding. I don't know if it's conscious or kind of this is just how it rolled into it.
Oh, yeah.
But what would you recommend people nowadays in terms
Definitely.
of
Definitely. Like,
branding?
as cheesy as that is to, like, have a personal brand as a developer, like, it kind of feels icky, and developers are kind of allergic.
A little bit allergic.
To marketing. It's necessary if you want to, like, make it in this industry. Like, we always told people, like, you gotta have a full GitHub, you gotta have a website or whatever, write blog posts, make videos, just explaining what it is you want, and that's how you get noticed. Especially, like, now, the code doesn't speak for your ability anymore, and so you need another way to show that you actually know what you're doing, and if you don't have any way to show that, you may be solving hard problems in your job right now, but if you're not, like, if you don't have any other way to, like, show that to the world, then it's going to be hard for you to, like, progress through your career. Yeah. So, like, I don't know, putting yourself out there on social media, I don't know, blog posts or YouTube videos, podcasts, just, like, chatting with, being involved in the community, I think is super important.
Format doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, I think it does.
Okay.
Like I say blog posts because like that's what it was when I started. But like nobody reads blog posts anymore. Not nobody, but like not a lot of people. And like right now, I would say like if you're just getting started, like it's probably become like a yapper on TikTok.
Okay.
It's probably the move right now.
Yeah.
And like in 6 months, it may be something different. You know, it's like Twitter is obviously huge in our specific industry as well. So I think you just got to figure out what that medium is at the one time and try not to do it all as well, because you would be spread way too thin.
Gotcha. So really just focus on one platform.
A couple of them, yeah, I think so.
What's your take on newsletters? Because for me, blogs have kind of morphed into these newsletters more and more nowadays.
I think I'm worried that email is becoming obsolete.
Yeah.
And the newsletter is probably the best way to reach people. It's so hard. Everybody's got something to do right now. Everyone's got something to show. Everyone's building a product, and nobody can get anyone's attention because everyone's like, look what I built, you know? Like everybody's building shit right now. And it's very hard to get people's attention. So newsletter is a fantastic way to do that, because it's like the last way you can like actually directly connect with your consumers. Everything else is algorithm based, and you just have to pray that the algorithm like favors your content and shows it to the people that want to see it. So that's good, but in the same breath, like my email is a disaster since all this AI popped up. You know, I get like probably 15, 20 like emails a day that are like trying to make it look like it was like, hey Wes, I love your podcast. I love when you talked about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you didn't.
We can compare emails. Yeah. I get the same
ones. You did not watch that. Like, it's insulting that you would even think that would work on me. And because they can personalize every single email, it doesn't get caught by spam anymore. And it's just a dumpster fire in my inbox, to a point where I've like almost given up on email. So like if like the real chats are happening in the DMs right now. So I don't know what the solution to that is, but I think newsletter probably still is a good move.
Yeah. What's your take then, lastly, on using AI to generate content and to use that in the awful? That's a no-go.
I find it so insulting when people send me an AI email, or like I got an email yesterday from somebody who I've had on the podcast, who I respect their work.
Oh, you know them?
I know them,
okay.
And I respect their work highly. And they sent me an AI email, and I was just like, boom.
Sad, very sad.
Why would you do that? And like a 2-sentence, hey Wes, we're working on this, check it out. Totally would have checked it out.
Yeah.
But you thought that you could like fool me with this like slop? I don't think so. So I don't love that. I do use AI to like edit my blog posts, where I'll just be like, not to write them for me, because I think like nobody wants to read your like extrapolated blog post, but I'll just like, I have like a skill to like post something to my website. Like this conference, for example, I used to be really bad at posting conferences on my website, but now I just have an agent and a skill, and I say, hey, I'm doing this conference. Here's a screenshot of the details, put it on my site, and it just goes and does it, you know? Or if I have like a short form video, I'll put, I'll collect the links from all the like TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'll collect them all and put them on one page on my website. And that used to be really annoying, because I'd have like front matter. Here's the Twitter link. Here's the thing. And now I just simply have to be like, here's a tip I posted on Twitter. Go find them on the rest of the social platforms and post it to my website. You know, so I do use it for that. Same with like video editing. It's great for cutting out sentences and stuff. But as soon as it gets to anything like creative or like thoughts that you're supposed to have, like somebody asked me if I use AI to write my slides. I was like, fuck no. Are you kidding? You think I just coming here to like summarize some bullet points that I had Claude dream up? That's insulting to the people that bought tickets. Like hopefully I'm imparting some knowledge that is not in that thing. So
what I do love, and specifically with slides, because maybe it's just the way of working of some of the tools to create slides.
Yeah.
I love going speech to text and then creating a website and using that website as my slides.
Yes.
That's now my go-to.
That's exactly what I did.
That's great. Yeah, really?
I'll just take my bullet points.
Yeah.
And I say, I wrote all the rough bullet points, scaffold out the slides, okay. And then I'll go slide by slide and be like, here's a screenshot of the thing, here's a video, loop it, you know? And like, I use AI for that.
Yeah, perfect.
But the actual content, of the talk. It's not.
No, that has to be.
Yeah, you have to
absolutely.
use your brain for that, unfortunately.
Thanks so much, Wes.
Yeah,
This was
cool.
great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.